Let me have your attention for a moment. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. And yes, this is Glengarry Glen Midterms once again. Now, you're talking about what? You're talking about John Fetterman trying to wing it with a closed captioning device on the debate stage and still stuck for an answer, even more than Joe Biden gets stuck for an answer. You're talking about Kathy Hochul in New York, whose answer to crime is to confiscate guns, and good luck with that one. Or you're talking about Charlie Crist, who has been fresh out of ideas since I don't remember when. Let's talk about something important. Let's talk about something all three of their teams should have watched before they let their principals out onto a debate stage where they made abject fools of themselves. Let's talk about the great segment CBS had on their Sunday morning program, Face the Nation. There, a panel of three parents, one each Republican, Democratic, and Independent, actually found common ground. And the ground they found was that they don't like the way Democrats have been running things, particularly in the schools. But the Democrats are paying no attention, and that's why they're going to lose. Before I dive into this, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. And be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which reads, "Thanks for the free trial of communism, but I'd like to cancel." That's what a lot of Democratic Party rank and file are saying to themselves. And that, even more than Steve Bannon's precinct strategy, is going to win the midterms for Republicans. In fact, that's what really won it for the Republicans in the Virginia pre-midterm last year. And one more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon? The heart shape with the US dollar sign on it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click on that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do. Now then, Miss Margaret Brennan of CBS probably regrets assembling this particular panel for his segment, Eye on America, Election Influencers. The I part derives from the CBS trademark, which has had the shape of an eye since radio days. Or maybe she doesn't want to admit that she couldn't have done any better for the Democratic Party without hiring actors, and she wasn't going to go that far. Well, all three of these panelists have school-age children, and all three are sending their children back to school now that lockdowns are over. Now, when a Republican, a Democrat, and an Independent all give the same answer to a hot-button question, one or both parties is in serious trouble, and this time, it's the Democrats. To understand more, you can view the actual segment on the YouTube channel for Face the Nation. I've left a link to it in the description. It runs for 7.5 minutes, give or take 15 seconds. And I'll tell you something. Those guys at CBS have brass. Well, you know what I mean. Now, maybe they thought they had to put that segment out there. After all, Fox News covered that segment, and so did the conservative debate site Blabber Buzz, which has more detail. Still, these guys at CBS were brave enough to put it out there. Or maybe they got tired of burying leads just because Ambassador Rice, or whoever is really running things in this White House, told them to. So, here we are. Here's John, a Republican in Texas. Quote, "The whole woke culture is affecting our children. All these elementary and secondary schools and middle schools having woke culture pushed on them. We should be pushing the actual school studies, math, social studies, science, not gender studies. Unquote, John. RNC Research put out a tweet on Twitter with his part of the segment, and I've left a link to it in the description. I also have a link to the next segment by Lashawn, the Democrat from Illinois. Now guess what? She agreed with John. That's what those Democrats need to realize. If they lose the Lashawns, they've lost the baseline. Now here she is, answering the question of what's the biggest problem in schools these days. Hey, quote, I will say sex education. I feel like some things are brought to the children's attention they wouldn't even think about. We should have more input, the parents, unquote Lashawn, who went on to say, and again I quote, children are really influenced. You can teach them one thing at home, but when they go to school, they're just as much influenced by their teachers and their surroundings. Close quote. Now this in itself is nothing new. Conservatives have observed that for decades. But in the last century, leftists and moderates insisted that such influence couldn't possibly be of any moment. Things like intimate relation orientation and gender identity were hardwired, inherited, and immutable. No more. Now we see teachers saying that these things are fluid and trying to encourage alternative lifestyle adoption, and parents have begun to notice. You expected to hear that from John. You didn't expect to hear it from Lashawn. Stephanie, the independent from Arkansas, emphasized that children found it hard enough to focus on the basic elements of returning to school after a year of being away from it without having to deal with woke subjects. Ms. Brennan then must have tried to distract them with immigration. Lashawn, the Democrat, criticized her party's leaders directly on their open borders ideology and policies. Quote, I mean, there's nothing wrong with helping, but we have more problems here in our country. I feel like there is so much focus on helping immigrants and not enough focus on the people here that might need assistance. Unquote. Translation, charity begins at home. This segment reveals many things that the Democrats have ignored. Now, before I get into all that, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You're not alone. The fluctuating economy, the employment issues, unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Now, let's talk about the things Democrats ignored. Did they actually assume that all their constituents would get on board with the 8 precepts of woke or with unrestricted immigration? True enough, the Democratic Party has within it those who vote Democratic or who have voted Democratic until now because the whole family did and it was the done thing. Or perhaps they joined the Democratic Party for the same reasons that Tulsi Gabbard did, and at about the same time. The Republican establishment, pre-Trump, never gave them any cause to trust them. To them, the Republicans were the party of big business. And I'll tell you something. The largest employers in any country are always at moral hazard to buy legislators to get literal privileges, private laws just for their benefit. So for a generation or two of Democratic voters, their hope lay with the trade union movement and even flirtation with communism. While the Republican establishment paid lip service to liberty and did nothing much to change things, the teachers' union put people into the classroom to start warping minds. Then came the pandemic, and with it, school lockdowns and Zoom classes. Zoom is the most popular mass internet teleconferencing service available today, but it's not the only one, and it is not my favorite. BitNext is my favorite, as I used to share with you long ago, and it still goes, but I digress. Parents, under lockdown themselves, listened in on their children's lessons, something they could never do before. And they had 3 words: whiskey, tango, and foxtrot. And then 6 more. We didn't sign on for this. That's the key, ladies and gentlemen. If Margaret Brennan or her managing editor at Face the Nation thought about any of this, she gave no sign. She cannot have expected those sweet parents actually to agree on not liking how people are running their children's schools, nor about how the Democrats lavish such largesse on undocumented migrants to the detriment of American citizens and lawful residents. But at least she was brave and honest enough to admit to the unanimous opinion she had found. Now here she is, wrapping things up, speaking to all 3. Quote, often when we do these focus groups, we have people from different parties disagree with each other. But I'm hearing a lot of you echo the same concerns and agreeing with each other. Unquote, Margaret Brennan. And now here's me talking. Of course, Ms. Brennan, of course they agree. You brought 3 people together, and instead of trying to shout each other down, they compared notes. Lashawn said something else that gives the lie to those who insist that only white supremacists profess any worry about crime. Quote, I want to know exactly what they're going to do about this, because it is out of control in Chicago. Unquote, Lashawn. Now, what is this that she's talking about? This is crime, which was well under control back when boss Richard Day Daley ran that city. It is out of control because the globalist left has released all controls. In the meantime, the Democrats have put into place every policy they ever wanted. And again, the people are saying, we didn't sign on for this. And what have Democrats answered? They tell their constituents to get with the program. I'll give you an example. Representative Abigail Spanberger, Democrat from the 7th District of Virginia, protested to Speaker Nancy Pelosi that the Democrats, by emphasizing socialism, defund the police, blah, 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 nearly cost her her seat. Maybe you remember what Nasty Nancy said back to her, in effect. Come on, girl, get with the program. And Representative Spanberger did just that. So did the entire House Democratic Caucus, which is a bare majority, and that's why they're going to lose it. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. As long as people had the basics, half of them might have gone along with the program. Actually, we might never know, because the pandemic experience gives us reason to believe they didn't know about the program, much less what was in it. At least they didn't know its full particulars. Now that they do, they're angry and they are in revolt. This woke nonsense is bad enough, but now they're thinking their party lied to them all this time. And nobody, and I mean nobody, likes it when somebody lies to them. This might be one reason why Democrats everywhere do not want to debate their opponents. Quite apart from John Fetterman's stroke and Kathy Hochul's tyrannical obsession with gun confiscation, and Charlie Crist not having had a new idea and I don't remember when, all Democrats are weak on one point, which is the American people do not like their program. Parents certainly don't. Parents gave the Virginia governorship to Glenn Youngkin and flipped the House of Delegates. At midterms, parents will flip Congress. That Face the Nation segment tells us why. Link in the description of the article to the Face the Nation segment, to the tweets with John's and Lashawn's parts in it, and to conservative news and views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to the Face the Nation segment and my earlier videos on why Tulsi Gabbard says she's leaving the Democratic Party and what it means to get back to basics. This is Terry A. Hurlbut, delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.